So about a few weeks ago, Canon announced its brand new camera, which is the Canon R5C. Now, this is meant to be a breakthrough camera in Canon's recent line. However, I don't feel like it's getting as much hype that it should be. Now, the R5C is meant to be this brand new hybrid cine-style camera that Canon have brought out to not replace the Canon R5, but to work on the Canon R5's imperfections and basically give us more than the R5 was able to deliver, being a cine camera. What I'm holding in my hand isn't an R5C, unfortunately. It is just the Canon EOS R, but it feels nice to hold something in your hand while you're talking. I'm going to toss it aside for the time being. The Canon are obviously not going to send me an R5C to test, because why would they? What reason do they have to send me an expensive brand new cine camera, which I would love to test and use. That being said, the R5C is meant to be super amazing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through my impressions on this camera, what I think of it. Is it a worthwhile camera? We're going to kind of discuss all of its features. I don't obviously have it to test, so I can't really give you a real world opinion on the camera. What I can do is I can go through the specs and stuff about the camera and what my thoughts on this camera are. So we're going to hit that intro as usual and then come back and talk about the Canon R5C. What's up guys, Kai24 back at your screens, and yes, we are going to discuss the Canon R5C today. So the Canon R5C is basically a full frame hybrid shooter camera. And what that basically means that it has two dedicated modes. One dedicated mode for photo and another dedicated mode for video. Now this is primarily a video first camera, essentially being a kind of R5C camera. Now the C stems from the Canon Cine series cameras like the C200 or the C70, and then you've got the Canon R, which is the photo series cameras that Canon have. The latest line of mirrorless cameras is the R series cameras. So you've got the Canon R5C, meaning that it's a hybrid of both of them. Make sense? Make sense? Yes, for all you lay people who want to know what that naming means, that's essentially what it means. It's a hybrid camera. It does both, and it does both very, very well. It is a full frame camera that is capable of up to 8K 60 FPS video recording, which is fantastic. It can take 45 megapixel stills, which is again insane. It's about the same as what the Canon R5 is capable of. You can just imagine what the video quality of that's going to be like. Now it can also film in 4K up to 120 FPS, which is absolutely fantastic, and it can do all of that with sound and focus and all of the things that you would want it to do. Unlike some other cameras, like for example my R6 can only do 1080 120 FPS but with no sound. So that is a massive bonus. The camera also boasts a dual ISO, which is fantastic, and a flip LCD screen. Now, dual ISO or dual native ISO basically means that the camera can hold its own against a range of different lighting conditions. So that basically makes it fantastic for use in any environment. And the flip LCD screen speaks for itself. Every camera nowadays should have a flip LCD screen. It's much more versatile to use, especially if you're going to be using it for photography or for vlogging. You need that flip out LCD screen, not the flip up LCD screens. They don't work as nicely, but that flip out LCD screen, fully articulating, that's basically what this camera has, just like the R5 does. So it's essentially like a twin of the R5, but with better video capabilities. And the one thing that the R5 didn't have, and this does have, is a fan at the back. So it's a little bit bulkier at the back. It's got this fan module at the back, which prevents the R5C from overheating. That was a major issue that the R5 had, and it was a big disappointment for everybody. The R5 overheated. Now, it probably only did that when you were filming in those high resolutions and crazy frame rates and using it for a long period of time. But even then, the fact that such an expensive camera, a flagship camera, was having these overheating issues was a massive caveat for a lot of filmmakers, a lot of people who are really interested in getting the camera, and it put them off getting the R5. The R5C basically fixes that. Yes, it adds a little bit more bulk to the camera than we would like, but it's still smaller than full-fledged cine cameras like the C200 or the C70. To be honest, it's probably not going to be bigger than your old school full-frame camera, so it's probably not that much of a downside. However, some people probably won't like it being that bulky. I don't know. People complain about stuff. It's what we do. Now again, I'm calling this a true hybrid camera because it has two very dedicated photo and video modes. Now what that basically means is when you switch that little toggle between photo and video mode, the entire camera's settings, user interface changes to work with that mode. In video mode, you're not going to be able to use photo. In photo mode, you're not going to be able to use video. Each mode is dedicated to that function. The kind of UI looks slightly different for photo and video, making each of them easier to use in their own senses. So that's why it's called a true hybrid camera, because you can do both, but not at exactly the same time. And it does both of them really, really well. 45 megapixel stills is still fantastic. It gives you just as good quality as the R5 does with that updated sensor, and the dual native ISO means you're going to get amazing images. And For video, do I need to say more? 8K, full frame, up to 60 FPS. It's absolutely mind-blowing what this can do. And the fact that it's primarily a video camera means that you don't have that 30-minute limit on recording like you do with cameras such as the Canon EOS R5 or the R6 or R, or essentially any other camera that's photo first. It's because of that weird tax regulation where you have to put a 30-minute limit on photo cameras so they don't classify as video cameras. It's really strange, but you know, this doesn't have that, so that's an amazing perk. Now there is one thing about the 8K. If you want to get full control of the lens and its functions, you will need to have an external power source hooked up. What that basically means is that without the external power source, everything's going to be set to manual. You're not going to be able to focus the lens using the camera and all of that stuff. So you're not going to be able to control the lens with the camera like you would do with any other camera. You just need to have an external power source hooked up, which can be a little bit annoying, but if you're going to be using that 8K, you're probably going to be making really high-end movies or films or documentaries or videos or whatever it is, and you are going to need to have that power source on it anyway. For me and you, we're not going to film in 8K 60 FPS. That's insane. You're not going to be able to edit that with our lowly Macs and MacBooks and, you know, standard computers. You're not going to be able to process those video files. It's going to be really difficult, and you're going to have massive file sizes at hand. It's just not worth it. So, you know, most of the people out there, if you're a normal content creator, you're probably not going to be using that camera to film in 8K 60 FPS if you do manage to get hold of one, or if you do want to get hold of one. So it's not really a downside for us, but for people who are going to be using it for those advanced kind of things, then yes, that might be a little annoying. However, there is the option to still use that functionality. Now, another thing is that the camera doesn't have IBIS, in-body image stabilization, like the Canon R5 and the R6 do, which for many might be a bad thing, for many might not be a bad thing at all. You know, it depends on really how you look at it and how much you rely on that IBIS. Now, loads of people have said you get that weird image wobble with the IBIS when you're especially filming in wider focal lengths. So for some people that might be, you know, a good thing that you only have electronic stabilization in this camera and it doesn't give you that wobble. However, for other people who really rely on the IBIS for steady hand movements and stuff like that, then it might not be such an amazing thing. But each to their own, it depends on what you think of it. Now, one more thing about this camera is that it does have that RF lens mount. Now, this is technically still an R series camera, which means all of the RF lenses that exist out there will work with this camera, and you can still use all of your EF lenses with it because you can just slap on the EF to EOS R mount and you're good to go. So the lens compatibility for this camera is absolutely fantastic, so you're not going to lose out there. I think it's an absolutely fantastic camera, and Canon have done a great job of fixing the issues that the R5 had and delivering more on top. So for that, I give Canon kudos. However, I do feel it's a little bit underrated. People are still afraid of the mistakes Canon made with the R5. Now, this camera obviously didn't get as much hype as the Canon R3 did, which I felt got a lot of hype for some reason, though I still think it's an absolute fantastic camera. If I could get my hands on one, it would be amazing. The next question is whether I think it's worth getting, whether it's a good camera or not, versus whether it's worth getting. It's a whole different question. Now, if you are a high-end filmmaker, or if you need a camera that's capable of things like 8K 60 FPS, 4K 120 FPS, and you want those features, you want those high-end video features and the hybrid capability that the Canon R5C delivers at that high price range, because that Canon R5C is going to be no less than £4,500, between £4,500 to £5,500, which is quite a lot. It's as much as the R5. So unless you're really after all the features that the Canon R5C is gonna deliver and you're gonna make full use of those features, I really don't think it's worth the money for your average content creator to get. If you're gonna be using it for filmmaking, making money, and that's your professional job, that's a whole different category of people. But for everybody else, I don't really think it's worth it. Am I going to get one? Absolutely not. I can't really afford one of those. I recently just got the Canon R6 and I'm more than happy what this camera is capable of. So for me, it's definitely not worth getting. However, I leave that choice up to you guys. Now, that's my take on the Canon R5C. I am going to leave it here today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope some value came from this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like button. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I can see from my analytics about 97% of you are not subbed to my channel. Why? Can I ask you that? Can you just pause there? Why are you not subscribed? Hit that subscribe button, or else nothing's really going to happen. Don't hit it if you don't want to hit it. Absolutely your choice, but I do enjoy that you guys are watching my videos, so do continue to watch it. And if you want to find out when my next videos are coming out, then hit that notification bell so that you know exactly when they're released. And that's it, guys. This is me, Kai24, signing out, and I'm just going to go dream about owning the Canon R5C. See you later.